Welcome friends to another episode from the crew at knotnauti. Today we are going to be hopefully ticking off one of the fundamental jobs that has been plaguing us all winter, and as we get ready for summer we must have a working genset. Let's just quickly recap what has happened and why we are going through this process. In the middle of winter we went out chasing a aurora. We were very excited to see the auroras. Unfortunately, before we got a chance to get that excited, our genset blew up. Now by blow up I almost mean that literally. So essentially we had a thermonuclear meltdown on board. The genset overheated due to some issues we'll talk about further on in the video as we go through, and the coolant vaporized. It formed a thick white acrid smoke which filled the salon, came up through the helm station, filled the salon with this awful smelling smoke. We had to abandon ship. The kids got off. Haley and I stayed aboard and problem solved, worked out what was actually going on and stopped the situation, hopefully just in the nick of time. It was deeply unpleasant. I do recommend at this point, if you're interested in watching those videos, I'll link them here, and I'll also put links to them in the description of this video as well. It certainly was an interesting situation. Not having a functional genset is really a trip killer. We need to have that genset up and working so that we can not only charge our batteries but also use things that require large amounts of voltage and amperage, things like the oven, things like the kettle, things like the coffee machine, and things like Starlink. I mean, Starlink does work off our 12 volt system with 240 sort of running in the background, but it does chew through the battery something chronic, and the solar panels we have just aren't enough to keep up with Starlink. We've done some tests and the solar panels are enough to keep up with the fridge and maybe charging a couple of phones, but that's it. So this week we are tackling the genset. Now many months later I've gone through a lot of different problem solving. The biggest problem solving of all was actually getting parts. This is a very old genset. It's probably 40 years old, and so parts are hard to come by, and I've really struggled to get some parts, so we're having to make do. We have just received our last parts order, which is the sort of missing piece to the puzzle for some bits. We've had to manufacture some gaskets, and what I was trying to do was find one special gasket which is going to be quite tricky to make, but that's part of today's mission. We do thankfully have this parts manual, which we will be referring to on many occasions because it does give us a fantastic breakdown of how everything comes apart and how everything goes back together. Let's get into it. Right, before we get too deep into the genset engine itself, we need to take care of the bits that we took off and make sure that they're all ready for reinstallation. So this plate and all of the toing and froing, this high temperature sensor has broken. So I've ordered a new one. That's part of the package that has just arrived. And inside all of here is just filthy. So we need to clean that out as much as we can. And this is where the raw seawater comes in and exits, and that can probably do with a bit of a clean out as well. So this whole thing we're going to need to clean, and this bad boy This has been the problem. So this is enormously heavy, and this is also completely irreplaceable. I could not find another one. I spent months looking for another one of these, and in the end, watch this. This is now good to go. So if you'll remember back to the video, several videos ago, we took this to an radiator repair shop in the hope that it could get cleaned. Some of the bolts had sheared off as we took this all apart, so they needed to be mechanically taken out, and this whole thing was heated up enormously in order to get those bolts out. And during that process, it was discovered that bits of this were rotten. This is really heavy. So what to do? Someone suggested rebuilding this out of stainless steel, but looking at the complex nature of this, you know, you have your exhaust gas coming in and then going out through the central pipe. And as it exits that central pipe, you can see what's happened. This has just been stacking up with all sorts of gunk, so I need to clean this out. I need to work out exactly what's happening in here. I'm thinking that is just a carbon stack build-up situation, so we're going to chip away at some of this and see if we can get that out so that the gas flow through here is unrestricted. Rebuilding this heavy thing out of stainless steel was an option for a while. It would have been very complicated and very expensive, and I'm not sure how introducing stainless steel into this whole system would have worked. Thankfully, our next door neighbour Graham has an engineering shop in Christchurch, and he took this away and he actually re-welded all of the inside of this. So he built up the rotten bits using some sort of secret magic, and so we're good to go now. But unfortunately, the thing that I could not get was the gasket. So this gasket is complex because we've got several different holes that we're dealing with. So we're going to have to make our own gasket. That's going to be the next part of this journey, and we'll give this a bit of a clean as well, just since we're here. Back outside to the outdoor workshop, or the cockpit table. Let's first remove this. This is the high heat sensor. We've got a replacement, so that's fantastic. So that can go in the bin. And then the next thing we're going to try and do is just take a look at this carbon build-up and see whether or not it's going to come off easily. Not really. It does come off, so it's definitely carbon and not sort of solder. So we'll try this first. Carby cleaner. That soak in for a bit, and all on the inside of this pipe it is filthy disgusting, so we're going to need to clean this anyway. Alright, fingers crossed this starts coming off easily. Yep. Surprisingly it does. So I'm going to spray heaps more of this stuff and just let it soak in for a bit. I'm guessing this is going to be quite a grubby job. And also potentially these kind of jobs, using these kind of tools and just trying to chip away at stuff, has the propensity to end in a trip to A&E. So careful as we go. Wire brush time. Now what I'm also going to do is mix up my chemicals and chuck a whole lot of brake clean down through the salt water exit hose. So how this works is the salt water, the raw water that's used in the heat exchanger, comes out of a hose into here and then goes down, mixing with the hot gas, into the wet exhaust. But that is also all blocked. So that had an awful lot of salt build up in here. And because it's sort of in a sleeve, it's very hard to get in and clean it without soaking the whole thing, which I guess would be the ideal. I haven't really made that much of a dent. I've chipped away some bits around the edges. Stinky. So maybe I'm thinking time for the Dremel. And we'll just gouge that out with the wire brush. Might be a tomorrow job now. Awesome, cool. Thank you very much, Owen. Speak to you soon. Cheers.
So how did that go?
Well, here's the story. Trying desperately to find the parts for this genset to keep it operational. So it's been a real struggle working with the ONAN/Cummins distributors in New Zealand to get the parts for the MDKD marine genset. because it's 40 years old and it is now considered obsolete. And essentially they've been saying to people this is end of life, so start making alternative arrangements, because there's so many parts that you just cannot get anymore. And the actual block itself is basically a Kubota engine, but it's all of the extra bits which have been marinized, and they're now just impossible to get. So what we've come to the conclusion of is that we need a coolant pump as a replacement, so that we can just pull the old coolant pump out and bolt a new one on. So thankfully they have the last one in the world, so that's now got our name on it. This little gasket here, which is part of the water pump, simple gasket, and also the impeller, two very simple little bits. Globally there are 0. So there is no one in the entire world which has a replacement impeller. And the last time we serviced the Genset, we used an impeller from our spares box. No more impeller. We can get a major kit, which is this whole thing, for $1,100, and there's one left in the entire world. We can get the entire pump, of which there's 2 left in the entire world, one of which is in New Zealand, but that's 2,200 New Zealand dollars. Yikes. The guy suggested that we try and work out whether or not there's a knockoff or a variant brand of impeller that will go in, and then we just make up the gasket. So, old boats. How do we feel, Hayley?
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so what they've been saying to people is these parts are getting impossible to order, so it's becoming impossible. And coincidentally, this one guy had another call from another workshop in the North Island asking for the exact same parts. So someone else in the country has the same Genset that is going through the same problems. So I just snaffled the coolant pump there and then, because if we don't get that last one left, then there's no going back. So at least we've got the last one left.
How much is that?
1,100. No, sorry, 600.
Oh, that's not bad.
$40, I think, for the whole part. So that's not so bad. But yeah, so not being able to get this whole great big block was the least of our worries, because at least we repaired that. But the next lot of thinking to be done is what happens when it breaks down again. We're kind of running out of options in terms of spare parts, but it's really big, so how do you get it out, and how do you get a replacement one in? And how much is that going to cost?
I'm going to turn the video off now. I don't like this conversation.
Right, so here we go on Genset repair part 539. This is the impeller for the water pump in the Genset. This is the ONAN part that no longer exists anywhere in the world. So last time we replaced it, we used one from the spares box, so now that's gone. However, it's good that I saved this, because now, looking in this little secret book here, we can find an alternative part from an alternative supplier that will fit. So job done. Now we just need to get the impeller out, and I've had to call on the professionals. There he is, Gary. He's been working on this engine in this boat for 10 years plus now, so it's good to have someone around that knows their way around your boat. Right, let's get this done. Thank you very much for watching and sharing in a little glimpse into our life. We really appreciate being able to share these videos with our friends and family and the wider community online that we are now meeting. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment, as all of this really helps our channel grow. We also have a Patreon account now too, if you would like to engage with us more and get access to a deeper layer of content, as well as some of the art we have been creating along the way. See you in the next video, and we hope you find a way to be a little bit naughty each and every day. Take care.